by our faithful cast here. We have the world famous Luella, who has been who every week sees a different celebrity, and we're very jealous of her. I just said this off the air, and I'm saying it again on the air because we are very jealous of her and her adventures in California. Lisa will be right back. She just popped out for a second, but she's there. And the world famous Michael, who looks to be at Fort Wilderness Lodge, possibly, with his background there. So he's going to be joining us live from a live show from Whispering Canyon. We don't know how that's going to go audio wise because it is pretty loud in there. But he has promised to ask for ketchup, though. So it should be quite an experience. All right. So, how's everyone doing this week before we get into the topic?
Doing
Great.
Got to work on this force ghost thing I have going on with this lighting. I don't understand why. Don't get it.
I can see you look kind of hazy.
Yeah, what's going on?
But sometimes it could be your camera or
I
the
think
lighting.
it's your overhead lighting. Yeah, your overhead lighting.
I could turn it off and I'll be in the dark, but it might look better. Who knows?
I mean, you look like the hologram Princess Leia almost, so it's kind of cool, actually.
Nice. Yeah. Effect. I'll figure it out one of these days.
All right, guys. Well, we are here live, and Lisa will join us soon here. And this week on Mouse Minds, we are talking about our Disney attractions and their role in popular culture. And we of course have seen many attractions become pop culture icons that have been I don't want to say memed, but satired on different popular television shows and so on and so forth. But we will touch on that, but that's not the main focus of this. But really diving into the evolution of attractions like the Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean or Small World, and kind of diving into their role in popular culture and what it means for society. I mean, even for people who are not Disney fans like us, I think we can all agree that attractions like those, anyone, can relate to those attractions and know as soon as you say those names, they know what they are. So we'll start with kind of we'll go with sort of the we'll start with whoever wants to start, and we'll go through kind of what your favorite attraction that you feel has become a pop culture icon, and whoever wants to go first. And Michael just left, so
Michael's here. He's playing with his lighting.
Oh, Michael's playing with his lighting. Oh, that's much better.
Yeah, kind of. Depends what your definition of much better is. Nothing I can do about the face. I'm just trying to figure out the lighting, so that's okay.
So whoever wants to go first and talk about that, kick things off here.
Yeah, so when you mentioned this topic, the first thing I thought about, the first place my mind went was to the movies and how Disney will take an attraction that for us are just everyday rides that we look forward to going on when we get to the parks. But for fans that will go watch a Haunted Mansion movie or a Tower of Terror movie or even Jungle Cruise, and maybe they've never been to the park, but they just take their kids because it's a Disney film. They haven't been to Walt Disney World yet, or they haven't been to Disneyland yet, or any of the parks around the world. For them, it's a movie. And then they'll go and eventually, hopefully one day, ride the ride and understand what that movie meant and the backstory, if there is a backstory, and why the heck Jungle Cruise and what does that even mean, and take it beyond just that movie script.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think one of the things that Disney does so well is it's called an attraction, not just a ride. So we've all been to amusement parks at locally. We love them. We love the rides. But are they iconic? And so when you think of a Disney attractions, I mean, we don't just call it a ride, and you talk about it being like a movie. So I liken it like going on a ride, and it's like watching a movie. So for example, one of our favorites is Haunted Mansion. I mean, not Haunted Mansion, I'm sorry. Well, that's a favorite, but like Pirates of
Mhm,
the Caribbean. And then when you sit on it, it's as if you're watching a movie and it elaborates. We've all ridden on boat rides in other parks or even just ridden on a boat, but how that one really makes you as if you're in the movie. And I think
mhm.
that was one of the things Walt Disney wanted to do. He wanted to put you in the movie. And when you ride that ride, what's funny is that ride came out before the movie. For some people, they
Mhm.
watch the movie first before the ride, but if you ridden the ride first and not watch the movie and then you watch the ride, you just feel like you're both in the same thing. So that's what I think was different about making it and calling it an attraction. I mean, it really encompasses you being in the movie.
That is 100% true. And when you think of movies and you think of storytelling and you think of what movies are, it's basically taking the impossible and putting it on screen. And Disney kind of does that with their attractions. They take things that we would have never imagined could happen in real life and make them happen in real life. I mean, they've been doing that for eons. And obviously, as society progresses, as technology progresses, so on and so forth, some of the things, I mean, I'm sure Pirates was I know Pirates at its time when it first opened was a groundbreaking attraction. Nowadays, people may not see it as such, but that also may have to do with it being there for so many years and people just got used to it being there. But what Disney can do with their stories and creating these amazing attractions is nothing short of breathtaking. And one of the things that I've in talking with Imagineers and learning kind of their process behind things is, and this is what Disney really excels at, and this is when you compare it to other regional theme parks and things like that or amusement parks, is you have you what you call your long shot, your medium shot, and your short shot, and that's all about details. What you see from a long distance when you see the castle, and you see it from a distance and you know what it is. Then when you get a little closer, you have that medium shot and you can make out some more details. And then you get really close and you're right in front of it. And then you see all those little tiny details inside of it. And that's what Disney is the best at. Dare I say, the best in the world at when it comes to theme parks. I mean, Universal is definitely a close second because I think just the nature of having that task of putting movies into attractions, you have to have that level of detail. But Disney has always done that, and they've taken it a step further with things like hidden Mickeys and so on and so forth. I mean, just to give you an example of how detailed things can get, there was one time where we were riding test track, and in one of the scenes, it's after you do the brake test and you go into after the room where they test the aerodynamics on the car, and it's like the third room where they're testing like emissions from your vehicle or something. It used to be like they would paint your car or something, but on
Hmm.
the on the side, there's a bunch of like code on the side of the wall. But if you look in the code and take a picture of it, in the code there's like a link to a website. If you put in that link, it's a specific link. It has like very specific like capitals and lowercases. If you put in that link into a web browser, it literally takes you to a picture of a Mickey. Like it's literally a picture. It's a hidden Mickey inside the code, and you would have to like. It was like by happenstance that we saw it. We were like, "Well, what is this? Let's try it and see where it goes." And it was literally so. That's the kind of detail and thought that I mean, like there's always Easter eggs. There's always things in these attractions, and even with the animatronics, you look at things more so now, like the for you guys in California, the raccoon rocket, and the
Hmm.
queue
Yes.
for uh, uh, Guardians of the Galaxy, and then of course the shaman out here on Navi River Journey. Those animatronics move like real human beings, and as even attractions like River Journey, which is just a boat ride. Seeing that animatronic and seeing that it feels like it's real life in front of you, and as you didn't know that it was an animatronic, especially with kids. That's kind of the excitement of Disney. Kids seeing this and going, "Oh my God, is that real?" And it's really neat to watch. But that's what Disney really excels at, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely. I
I
mean, I
think
remember
yeah.
being, when I was a kid, and something as old but yet not simple as the Abraham Lincoln animatronic or the Hall of Presidents. Being a kid, and
Hmm.
you couldn't tell little 6-year-old me that those weren't people up there, the way they're moving, and it's just that, and that was way back then. So now with the technology, the fluidity, and that movement, you nailed it, Robert. It's right on point.
I can only imagine if there was one thing at Disney that I would love to sit in on, it would be the first time they actually ran Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, because I can imagine the jaw dropping that must have happened when they saw this Lincoln animatronic on stage, and as simple and as primitive as that was, just to see him on stage stand up and do his whole spiel, and as basic of an animatronic and as much of a start as that was, to I'm sure they were mind blown, and
Yeah.
that would be so cool to see.
I mean, that was all from the 64, 65 World's Fair.
Hmm.
And that's uh, was really groundbreaking at that time. And it's still groundbreaking. I think it's still fascinating. And it's all about storytelling. And that's what makes the difference between a ride and an attraction, and being it just excitement, thrilling, and memorable, a part of your kind of your DNA. You know, why we go back and want to ride it again.
Exactly. And
Absolutely.
I think too that, going back to the detail thing, you know, when you look at something like let's take for example Six Flags. You look at Six Flags as a theme park or an amusement park, whatever you want to call it. Um, and they have the biggest and baddest roller coasters, and they're just 300 feet in the air, and you're flying all over the place. And those are fantastic, and they're a lot of fun. I've been on a lot of them, and they're fantastic. They're a lot of fun, but there's a difference between that and a roller coaster at Disney. Yes, Disney roller coasters don't necessarily go 300 feet in the air, but there's a reason behind that, because things like sightline matter. Like, they don't want to shoot you 300 feet in the air because you'd see the building behind the Magic Kingdom that where the employees park. They want to keep you immersed in that whole environment, so you don't feel like you feel like you're there, you feel like you're in Fantasyland. It's not about just having the biggest and baddest, it's about creating an immersive experience that keeps you locked into that world, and you don't see any part of the outside world. And at Disneyland especially, I think it's crazy how well they've done that, given the fact that the Catella Avenue is right next to Disneyland. It's like right there. Like,
Yeah.
you turn, take a left, and it's right there. Like, you'd never know unless you rode the monorail. That's really the only way that you can tell that you're next to a major road thoroughfare. So it's amazing.
No, funny. Yes, it's they know how to kind of hide, but that's why he did the Florida project, is because it was getting harder and harder to do that.
And I see we have Lisa joining us in the conversation here. Welcome, Lisa. Thanks for
Thank you.
joining us. I hope you're doing well.
I am. It's freezing cold here. I was just dreaming of warm weather like you all have.
Don't come to Florida if you're looking for
No,
warm
we have the
weather.
furthest thing from warm down here.
This is one
Oh,
week to be asking for warm weather.
Yeah. It's
yeah, but I
currently like 60 or something here, and I'm about to die. So,
um it'll be 70 in just a few or 70. It'll be 17 in just a few hours here. So
Oh.
I would gladly take 70. Yeah. 60,
actually, I was
70.
wrong. It's 50. It's 51. So we're a little bit closer, but not by much. So we were just talking about attractions and their role in pop culture, and Luella mentioned, or someone mentioned pirates, and we were just talking about what attractions really resonate with you as far as being pop culture icons. And I'll pass the question off to you, and you tell us which attraction feels that way for you, Lisa?
I would say, having it not been that long ago, maybe a month or so, since I finally rode, ah, well, oh my gosh, my brain just went blank. Well, having rode Tron and Guardians, like having just rode those for the first time in the last month or so, and the just thinking of all the Guardians movies that um, rule our life, and like we even in the therapy clinic the other day, we just had the soundtracks from the movies play, and like everyone was jamming out and loving them, and they all thought, "Oh yeah, this is in Guardians. Did you know that?" And I was like, "Yes, that's what we're listening to." So, um, I, I mean, how Disney attractions become pop phenomena. I mean, I like how everything is intertwined, the stories. Um, I mean, and there's several. I mean, like you said, Pirates of the Caribbean, like so many of them we could talk about.
I
But
think
those are
you
the
kind
two
of
that,
hit the nail where you talk about music, and music really resonates. Everyone, you can play a couple bars and we can all start singing. So
mhm.
that's how it kind of sticks and becomes pop culture. All little kids can probably sing "It's a Small World," whether
I
they've
was just
written it or
about to say
not.
that.
And so, you know, that's kind of how these attractions really become into like the minutia of our being. And so you're jamming there to Guardians. You've seen the music now. You watch the movie. It's in the ride. So it just really plays out, and it makes you smile. It gives you joy. So that's what's great about it.
And I will tell you a funny story speaking on that topic. I was at Destination D once, and we had a concert with Richard Sherman, and he stood in front of thousands of people, and he apologized to all of us for creating "It's a Small World." He said it was the worst decision he ever made. He said it's the most. He says he hears it in his sleep, and he didn't say worst decision, but he basically apologized to everyone for creating something that became somewhat so annoying. But when you think of pop culture icons when it comes to attractions, because yes, there are a lot of movies that turned into attractions. I mean, heck, there was even a Pirates of the Caribbean movie way, way, way back before the ones came out with Johnny Depp, that I'm sure most people have not seen. Um, I think it might have been in black and white. I don't remember. There might have been color. I don't remember. But Small World, it's never had a movie. As far I don't think it's yeah, I can't think of no. There's never been a movie for Small World, yet it's been satired on so many television shows. I mean, any show that has anything to do with Disney, um, whether they're making jokes at Disney or the premises they go to Disney, they always go to Small World. I mean, it's like a thing that they do. Um, but I will say, speaking of music and well, speaking of television and satire of Disney and pop culture, I think the best reference to Walt Disney World ever in a television show is the episode where the Simpsons went to Epcot. And as they flew over Epcot, Homer said, "It's even boring to fly over it."
Oh,
And that was one of the funniest things I've ever heard. And then the sign in front of Epcot said, "You're here because everything else was more expensive," or something like that. So I found that to be very because that was a time when Epcot was considered more of an educational park because all the attractions were mostly educational based. Although I mean I thought that was when Epcot was at its best, but that's just my personal opinion. But it's those types of crossovers too. Thinking of things like how many countless TV shows have we had where they spend a week a couple of days at Walt Disney World and film the whole thing, can think of the '90s, TGIF. What was it? Family
Like,
Matters and some of these
and
other
oh
shows
wow,
that exactly
yeah,
that
lots
all
of
went to
that has been.
exactly. I mean, and using the platform to not only advertise for the Disney parks, but also put that in the and etch that in history. I mean, I still watch those episodes to this day because they're so great, and seeing, not only for the purpose of seeing them at Disney, but seeing the history, seeing the old attractions and things like that too on those episodes as well. So when it comes to the parks, it's amazing to me how, Walt just wanted to create something to have, Daddy Daughter Day, and it turned into this massive phenomenon that I don't think that Walt could have ever predicted happening in his life. I don't think he expected it to be as big as it is. What do you guys think on that?
I think that he dreamed bigger than he even realized. I think his vision wasn't agreed upon, like for past people. But kudos to him to keep pushing. And so I'm a big believer of letting the Imagineers do what they do best.
Hmm.
And if you've ever been to international parks, I do understand people's uh, like hold on old attractions, and I do
Hmm.
believe in nostalgia. But if you ever go to some of these international parks and you see what some of these rides are,
Hmm.
um, you gotta let these Imagineers, like, start
Yeah.
letting them just go. Or
Th-
and I think, we love Disney, but a, Universal has really upped their game. If you've gone to here in California and you've seen Nintendo
mhm.
World, what they do. So, let them go, and then we get to, enjoy the fruits of their labor. And also friendly competition. Let them compete because we enjoy the fruits of that labor, you know. So, and all of those become pop icons and memorable moments. So, that's kind of my take on everything with attractions and the love of it. And then just not when we can join can join in the conversation, but not when things get old. But let there's so much technology, let's just keep on going, get better and better.
And I heard something many years ago that was very profound in regards to historical attractions um just remembering old times at Disney. And someone said to me once that Disney is the only place where people are, how did they phrase it? They said hunting old emotions and old feelings, because we have all these experiences when we're children at Disney, and we're constantly, every time we go, we're constantly trying to relive that amazing trip we had and we were 5 years old. Now, I know that this obviously doesn't apply to everyone. I mean, I love every time I go to Disney, but a lot of people are trying to relive the past and relive those amazing experiences they have, and that's why they hold on to those older attractions, like like the people that hold on to love for Horizons, or even some of the older attractions at Disneyland. So I totally agree with what you're saying, and you're right about the international parks, especially parks like Tokyo Disney, which has some of the best and most innovative attractions, I think, out of all the Disney parks, and it just keeps getting better because they just the thing about Tokyo is because they're owned by the what is the Land Sea Corporation, or the Tokyo Land Sea Corporation, they just kind of throw money at it and just say, here you go. Where Disney has a little more reign over here, and then they kind of hold back little things, and they do a great job of updating the parks. Don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing Disney in any way. It's just not as wide open as I would say as Tokyo Disney is, because I mean, some of those attractions over there that are just incredible,
I mean,
incredible.
have any of you been to Disneyland? It's a Small World. Have any of you?
Yes.
Okay, so there's those other characters in there, right? The the kind of like the Disney characters that are Mary Blair fied.
Hmm.
There was a lot of people that when that was starting to happen did not want it because it was changing. But you can
Oh,
see
I
how
didn't know that.
it can enhance the ride and still make it special, not take away from that. And it just and so that's the thing. Like, you can still have the classic feels of what you feel is the ride, but update it, or at least infuse it with kind of new insight and make it fun. So that's, and we were talking about just the iconic It's a Small World. What's really neat about It's a Small World, I think it's at every Disney park internationally, right? There's an It's a Small
Hmm.
World there. I'm not sure about Disneyland Paris. I've never been there. Is there one over there?
They do have it at Disneyland Paris.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
I did go
that's
on it.
why
Yeah,
that song is just everybody knows that song. It's just everywhere.
and they also have the absolute worst Indiana Jones ride ever created at Disneyland Paris. That thing was just it was scary. It was scary.
Oh, oh no. Oh
If
no.
you've never been on it, it is a roller coaster, and it has a inversion, a loop, one loop, and you're in like a little mine car, and it was just it was I mean, it was fun, but it was scary. The best one is obviously Disneyland. That's the best Indiana Jones attraction that there ever is and ever will be. But yeah, the one at Disneyland Paris is kind of scary.
Oh no.
Another thing I was thinking of too, as far as getting into pop culture, and yes, again, a lot of the stuff is made for Disney fans. But when I look at the ornaments that Hallmark puts out, and they'll each year they'll introduce one or two attraction-based ornaments because somebody will grab just a generic Mickey Mouse or a generic Goofy, and it's great. But now you've got Mickey sitting in the Peter Pan pirate ship this year, and they had Skipper Mickey on the Jungle Cruise. And these are ornaments that are highly sought after because those are the ones that people will grab first because it is attraction based. And those are really, really cool. And I never think to pick them up. And then 4 years later, you go, oh, I should have bought that. Let me check on eBay. I'm like, okay, we're obviously not going to be buying that one.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
very true.
lots of examples of the merch. And, and you all know that I'm a director with Cincy, and so we have warmers that are attraction based. Small World comes out in a few
Mhm.
days. We've had Haunted Mansion, numerous warmers that have came out and that are going to come out, and even the Dumbo one is pretty amazing with the moving parts. I sit here and I think people wait in long queues just to buy a warmer with their favorite character on it, and so it's you know all throughout our lives. It's not, it's on the clothes that we wear, it's the furnishings in our house, it's the shows that we watch, it's the attractions that we like. Everyone likes a stuffed animal, or like, it's just, there's so many different things that I can't go anywhere without seeing Disney. Even with my daughter going to get her senior pictures taken tonight, the lady walked by. They just gotten, so two people within just 20 minutes. One had gotten off of a Disney cruise, and one was wearing a Mickey, or had a Mickey hat, like Dooney and Burke bag. So I know those aren't necessarily attractions, but Disney is everywhere I go.
And they infuse those attractions, like you said, into
Mhm.
Sensi, into Funko, into
Yeah,
Loungefly.
everything.
Every Yeah, so
Especially
it
Loungefly.
yeah,
There's
it's
Lots
so many
like
everywhere.
Loungefly
go and
William
get
bags.
that
Spa.
bag at the Big Thunder Mountain ears. So and people get excited. Like when I see out and about someone with a Loungefly, it's a conversation piece. Oh, I love your
Yeah.
Loungefly. Oh, you just talk about it. So like
Yeah.
I said, it brings joy.
It
and
does.
you,
There's a way to make a dollar. Disney will be all over it with a piece of
well,
merchandise.
as much as Disney is a business, and I can agree that it's everything's a constant show for some sort of money, and I do agree that some things now are a little bit too much. I think Genie Plus is too much. I think paying for Lightning Lane is too much. I think those things are just a little like they're testing the limits when it comes to what the consumer will actually purchase. But I do feel like the merchandise that Disney puts out and the people that they align themselves with, I think number one, it's helped them stay in the culture, and which is a great thing because we all love the mouse and we want it to do well, and it's really helped that everyone kind of recognize Mickey Mouse. But two, they always align themselves with premium brands, and I mean most of the things that Disney puts out, other than like the light wands on Main Street, are are premium products. I mean, they're it's something that'll last. It's something that will be a keepsake forever. Those popcorn buckets, I mean, they last forever. They after I don't know what people do with them because I bought them before and they sit on my shelf and I get tired of it in 3 months, and then where does it go? Because it'll last forever. But it's like Disney does some amazing merchandise, and I honestly can't fault them. I don't feel bad that they do that because that keeps them current, that keeps them relevant, that keeps people happy. I don't know where, like I said, I don't know where people have all the space for this stuff, but I understand why they do it. And it's not, Disney does it in a way where it doesn't feel like a grab for someone's money. It actually feels like something that someone will actually cherish and want to wear and be proud to wear. And that's pretty amazing for a company to be able to do that. It's not just slapping your name on everything that you possibly can. There's rigorous, they care about their brand. They care about their brand.
And they have to protect that brand,
Yeah.
which is super important to them. I mean, I know it's common knowledge, but if you think back to the old Disneyland TV show, the whole reason Tinkerbell was on there and not Mickey is because if it flopped, they didn't want to associate a flop with Mickey Mouse. So we'll throw Tinkerbell on there. And she wound up doing Gangbuster for them. But that's why she's the one in the intro and not Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, the concessions that they make for the brand, the way they are always, even in creating the most magical moments, they're thinking how it will be perceived by the general public is just amazing. And they've always had the most amazing, uh, you know, public relations teams to help get the brand out and, keep it so that everyone can enjoy it. And no matter what what you believe, where you come from, you know, it doesn't matter. Disney supports everybody, and they've been very good at that over the years, and I applaud them for that. Now,
Agree, agree.
one thing I do want to mention when it comes to attractions, I know we were talking about Walt and being a visionary and so on and so forth, but it crossed my mind as we were talking about that because I every time I hear the Haunted Mansion, I think of the story with Bob Gurr and them building the attraction. And if you don't know, basically the story goes they had a candy apple with a stick in it, and that's how they designed the ride vehicle for Haunted Mansion, the Omni Mover. Basically, they put a stick in there and then that candy apple, and they saw, oh, we can turn it like this and turn it this way and make it go all these different directions, and that's basically how they designed that attraction. And there's Bob Gurr has talked about this numerous times about that, and I was thinking, I've actually seen um, Bob Gurr, when he's in the parks and the way he looks at the attractions and sees how popular they are. I mean, I don't know if the rest of you can see this, but I get the genuine sense that he never expected things like the Haunted Mansion to be as popular as they are and to be such cultural icons as they are. It's just when you see his face and he looks at the line of people, that's just one person, but when he looks at the line, he's just so he's all over social media, so you constantly see it. But when you see him looking at the lines and seeing how crazy things are and how crazy people go for the Haunted Mansion, even to this day, I mean, you can tell it literally blows his mind. I mean, it's really amazing to see.
And he was a very talented. He is a very talented man, um, and when you ever have the opportunity to just sit and talk with him, his mind is sharp. It's still sharp. And I think that's part of the lure is that he's always thinking. And I think if we know the history of Haunted Mansion, it's supposed to be a walkthrough attraction, and so
Hmm.
it was perfect to have him invent the Omni Mover, and so our line of vision is where they want to tell the story, and and it's great. It's great.
And there's been so many amazing attractions that have come out of the Omni Mover, like Journey into Inner Space and what if you had wings and Dream Flight and so many great attractions that came out of just that one single ride system. It's amazing. I mean, really, when you think about Bob Gurr as an individual, not only did he, with Disney, what's great about Disney is they're creating these things for entertainment, but they also sometimes have practical uses, like for example, the People Mover. I mean, look at there's what the is it the Dallas airport that has the People Mover inside the airport. There's one inside the Capitol building that takes congressmen to and from different buildings. So a lot of these things that they build for Disney. I mean, that's why Disney has a research and development team, building robots and all kinds of crazy stuff because they make these things and they don't just apply to attractions, they apply to real life. So not only are we enriching, movies and TV, they're also making our life better through fun attractions, which seems very like a weird connection, but it is.
Yes, definitely. I agree. I agree.
Now, last but not least here, I want to do this last topic here, which I when I gave because I'm a big proponent of utilizing chat gpt to help us come up with the topics and kind of talking points and giving me ideas, and I thought this one was very interesting here, that it kind of gave in because the theme parks and life in general has changed so much with the advent of social media. We've gone from people going to a show and watching it to thousands of screens recording the show and all live streaming it online. And not only has it changed it in that aspect, it's also opened um, creators and designers, Imagineers to criticism. I mean, fans can be very brutal online when it comes to attractions. I mean, I remember sitting down at a talk once and listening to Jason Surreal, who has worked on the Star Tours at MGM. And when they initially put some writing on one of the buildings, like the day after it opened, like people were complaining that it wasn't the right language for the planet that Star Tours was supposed to be on. And this is the kind of like things that people notice and will post online and complain about. And now that everyone has a voice, it really has changed the way we look at the theme parks dramatically because of things like the blogs and what we're doing here with our show. So how do you guys see that Is it good or bad? Do you appreciate the change? How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I will say it's not going away.
Mhm,
So it's definitely, whether it be good or bad, it's what's difficult is the faceless when they complain, right? A
mhm,
lot of these people won't complain to your face, but
mhm.
put it behind a like a an ID, a screen, they'll say. So I think that like it's not going away, and so you definitely have to have tough skin. Like Disney has to have tough skin. But some people really do make some points, and so you've seen things change because of that. But I don't want it to hinder the creative process. Like if that was the artist's vision, I believe they should have their vision and 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 kind of see where it goes. Whether it be merchandise or movie or ride. But it is kind of tough.
D-
Everyone's a critic.
I think the sad part of it is as much as we don't want it to hinder art or things like that, I think it's evolved into a situation where Disney will post concept art for an attraction online. People will, I don't want to say most people, but there will be people that will be very critical of it. Although it's something they've never ridden, they've never been on, they've never experienced. And Disney will wind up, I mean, in the past has made concessions because people have complained online. Lisa's shaking her head, yes. She knows it's true. Disney has made concessions in the past, and I honestly think that number one, like I've I've been on that aspect. I've been doing this for 12 years now. Blogs, website, YouTube, podcasting. I've done it all. And I only say that because I've been in that boat. I've been the one that was critical, and but I've learned that number one, you have to trust the Imagineers because
Yes.
they you everyone wants to be an armchair Imagineer. Everyone says this is how you should do it. Everyone has this grand plan of how we should redo the imagination attraction at Epcot, and Figment will be the star of the show, and the Dream Finder will come back, and it'll be the greatest thing ever created, and all their childhood dreams will be realized. And that's fantastic. But when you get to the minutia, the details, everything with that, then that plan kind of falls out because they don't have those details figured out. And I think that's where Imagineering excels. And I think there needs to be more trust in Imagineering. And I think we also need to give things a chance and let them go and actually write it. Because what I'm finding is, and myself included, that a lot of times when we actually ride the attraction or when the thing unveils and we see it firsthand, it's way better than any concept art could ever imagine. And what we thought of in our head of what it was going to be versus what it actually is are two completely different things. And it's almost like as a community, as a Disney community, we like it's like people have in their head that Disney has fallen off the wagon when it comes to attractions. I don't know. But they are so negative towards it. And I feel like that hinders a lot of what Disney does. Um, So I mean, there's a lot of websites, that are posting rumors and so on and so forth and get information out before Disney even releases it. And I think it's kind of I mean, I to put it this way, I have friends now who refuse to look at Disney websites, refuse to look at the news, the rumors, even when Disney announces stuff, because of the fact that they want to see the attraction firsthand and experience it without any spoilers, just like you would a movie or a television show or whatever else. And honestly, I have to say, I kind of miss those days. I kind of miss being surprised at what's next.
I tend to, I tend to avoid the spoilers. I tend to avoid. I may see the concept art. That's what I may see. But I don't want to see the ride through before I get on the ride. I want to be completely surprised. Um, and we have a mutual friend, Robert, that's an Imagineer, and he um, the took a little bit of time with us to go through, let's say, well, one of them would be Flights of Passage. We've been on several attractions with him, but hearing all of the backstory and like all of the details, people were, we were standing in line, people were listening to these stories. They're like, how do you know all of these things? But just the minute details that some people would have missed. Um, there was so much forethought in those attractions that we couldn't even, I wouldn't have even, from a 2D um, experience of it on the concept art to what it becomes when it's 3D and 4D, depending on on the ride. Like it's unimaginable until they've put it all together. So I'm one of those that there's sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna like this, and then I am always pleasantly surprised, including like Guardians. I waited and waited and waited to ride that, and I'm so glad that I did. Like, there's nothing that, um, I don't think even any video could have ever done it justice. So,
And you made a great point too. Um, the devil is in the details with Disney, and I can give you two good examples of that. Number one, um, Pleasure Island, which was there before Disney.
right.
People really are before Disney Springs. Sorry,
Hmm.
people don't realize that if you look at that area, yes, people think it was nightclubs and bars and so on and so forth, but that place had a whole backstory. There was a character created, Meriwether Pleasure. There was a whole story that tied in with the Adventurers Club. It tied into the Jungle Cruise. There was like, there was a fireworks factory. There was this. There was a power station. There were all these little buildings, and each thing had a place on that island. And that to
Hmm.
me was the coolest thing about Pleasure Island was that fact. The same with Disney Springs. You have the Springs Bottling Co., which is the Morimoto, and there's actually a story behind that. And there's every little bit of that area. It's just it's, let's be real. It's just basically a very nice shopping mall, but there is so much backstory there, and that's what Disney does well. Even the smallest things have that amazing storytelling potential in
Hmm.
there. And the same applies at Disneyland with Downtown Disney, things like that. There's even storylines in a lot of the buildings there as well. So even the most um common or most, I don't even know how to describe it, but the most minute things have so much detail and story to them. It's amazing. And when you actually sit down and hear, like you said, on in Avatar, hearing those stories and hearing what goes in behind there and what that story is, I mean, it'll blow your mind. It'll literally blow your mind that this is what is going on, and it adds so much more depth to those attractions,
And what's
in my
great is you
opinion.
don't need to know the backstory. There are first time families or locals that just need a place to eat. They want to go grab a sandwich at Earl. They don't know the backstory. They don't care about the backstory. It's not changing or enhancing or taking away from their experience there. I'm here to shop. I'm here to buy something for my kid and I'm going, whether it's a fireworks factory or not. I don't know the backstory. I can stay at Wilderness Lodge without knowing the backstory and hearing about this or that. It's
Hmm.
fun for the fans and it's there for the fans, but for the average guest, they can still go and have a great time without knowing that somebody named Meriwether Pleasure was invented for this or what Typhoon Lagoon is. Who cares? It's a really cool water park. The rest of
Right.
us can go and enjoy it. Now, Robert, to your point, when you were saying that the fans, how the Imagineers, and we trust them and let them go and do their thing. I wonder what the fans saved everyone from with New Fantasyland, what they threatened to give us, and then everyone lost their collective minds and said, "Don't you dare! There's nothing here unless you're a 5-year-old girl." And then they scrambled and said, "Oh my God, I think people are right." And then they came up with what I think, I didn't see the original, but something more people can enjoy. And we got some cool rides and attractions and restaurants as opposed to an endless meet and greet of princesses.
That is very true. I mean, I definitely agree with you there, but I still think there needs to be a level of trust. And then the other thing I think that the internet kind of ruins too is when we have attractions that are announced that don't come to fruition, are 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 at the moment not coming to fruition. And I'll give you a prime example. When we were supposed to have the most amazing Mary Poppins ride inside Epcot. It was in the books. It was when they built the little preview center inside the Odyssey at Epcot, and they had that little section in the back of UK where we're supposed to go, and there was like a little, Mary Poppins like little thing there, and they didn't specifically say a Mary Poppins attraction was coming, but they hinted at it pretty hardcore. I mean, it was pretty obvious that it was coming. And then of course with the pandemic and everything else, that was one of the things that was scrapped due to budget cuts. But it's like I would have rather not have known about that and not be mourning the loss of that attraction than actually know about it and be mourning the loss of that attraction, because from some of the concept art that I've seen, it looked like it was going to be pretty amazing, and we don't get the pleasure of having Jolly Holiday Bakery over here, which is also amazing if you haven't been there before. So, we don't have a Mary Poppins attraction, and I think it would fit well in that area. So it kind of stings a little bit, and that's kind of the thing too with having all this access and the fans demanding to know what's coming next and having these sort of Apple style keynote talks. What's new? What's next? Walt Disney World. What's new? What's next? Disneyland. At D23 events and so on and so forth. Is sometimes these things that they mention don't come to fruition. I mean, there's been a couple resorts, the Reflections Resort that was going to go where in between Fort Wilderness Campsite and Wilderness Lodge. That thing looked insane, and that's no longer a part of Disney World. So it's just crazy. As I think as fans, they want to see everything blue sky, blue sky, blue sky. Tell me what you're working on for the next 10 years. And that's great and all, but you know, things that are coming out in 10 years may not actually happen. And you get your hopes up for something that isn't, that may not come to fruition, and that kind of stinks.
Yeah,
And I
I
think
get
that's
that
just a factor of that.
I get that they're doing it to excite the fans, but telling me what's coming 10 years from now doesn't do me any good. When construction walls start going up, let them speculate and you can drop little hints. But like you said, to make all these announcements you can't follow through on. I think if you ask anybody at Disney now, they'll probably deny all knowledge of that Odyssey preview center. I think Disney's sorry that they even launched that, because everything that was really, really cool and isn't coming, Epcot, they pared down from what they promised.
I think,
And the length of time
yeah,
it takes to build these things anyway. It's been wall city since before COVID. Those construction walls aren't going anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately.
No, actually, you're wrong. They announced it December 5th. Oh,
So no,
December 5th.
they have ones up now on the, as you walk into imagination on the left side. I know the other ones are coming down because they're going to be debuting that statue. But I don't know if
Yeah,
that, does that mean all walls? Are we done?
as far as I've been told, all walls. But
Nice.
I don't see how that's possible because there's a lot of stuff going on. But I know Llewellyn had a point, so I don't want to get on a sidetrack before she makes her
Yep.
point.
well, I was just going to say, I think they learned their lesson. It was two D23s ago when they announced that Mary Poppins attraction. And then last D23, rather than announce attractions, I don't know if you recall or if you've seen it, they were saying something. They were just throwing things out there. They called it Beyond Thunder Mountain. Do you recall? They were saying, like,
Mm-hmm.
what if we did a villains park? What if we did? So they didn't commit to anything. They wanted to
Yeah.
see reactions. And I think they've learned to not make, to not jump ahead. I think it was all set. It was all ready to happen. We were all excited about something happened to Epcot and Mary Poppins, and they've learned that they can't deliver. People aren't happy. So now we'll just do a what if.
Well, they learned that Disney fans will hold them to the fire, and Disney fans record everything, and they will like say, "Hey, you promised that this." I mean, just to give you an idea of how relentless Disney fans are, there is supposedly someone that goes to every shareholder meeting for Disney and asks them the same question at every meeting. When is the Dreamfinder coming back to Epcot? That's literally the same question they get every time from the same person. That's how relentless Disney fans are, and I guess they feel like if they badger them enough, they'll eventually do it. But you're right. They are at the last event. They were very their phrasing was very interesting because they weren't saying things were coming, but they were kind of saying things were coming. And I get it. Like budgets fall through, things fall through. I mean, you're talking about a brand new park. I don't even can't even imagine what the cost would be to Disney to add on another park. So, and where do they find the land? Because a lot of the land they have is unusable, and they have to leave some of it for protection, for animal protection, and all this stuff. So where would they even do that? So I get that 100%, and it's but like you said, Disney fans will hold them to the fire, and they are when it comes to um fan communities. I honestly feel like the Disney community is by far the most like strict and will just they are like on it. And like I've seen the gaming community, I've seen all their different communities, and they have opinions, but not as they're not as I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but they're not as tight as the Disney fans are with Disney. They're not as energized.
Or entitled. I think there's a certain amount of
Like
entitlement for Disney fans.
ruthless.
We
Yeah.
deserve this, and why don't we have
Ruthless.
it? Yeah, the silly Hatbox Ghost that they keep saying they're going to put into the Haunted Mansion. People are, but they said it was going to be here, and why is it in there yet? It's like, it'll be there. It'll be okay. And if you don't see it this trip, it'll be there next trip. It's not going anywhere once they put it in. So if they don't get there by the deadline, oh my gosh, they lied to us. No, they said it's coming. Easy.
Disney 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 PR is playing a a game right now with certain well, I shouldn't say certain. I'm gonna phrase this nicely. There is let's just say there's certain websites that Disney PR plays a game with um when it comes to announcements, and there are certain websites that will post announcements and force Disney's hand because I know because I've heard of this from people that work behind the scenes that Disney has been forced to lay their hand out when it comes to attractions or opening dates or so on and so forth because of certain websites that push them to do so because they will say, this attraction is opening on such and such date. And then you'll see like 2 hours later that Disney makes an official statement when they probably weren't going to make an official statement for another couple of weeks. And they're forced by some of these bloggers to do that. And it's interesting to watch how that has changed because and it's just do I think it wouldn't have happened 20 years ago? Absolutely, but I think the only reason it wouldn't have happened 20 years ago is because we didn't have the tools to make it happen. I don't think people have changed and they're just more ruthless. I just think that I mean there were even groups back in the day, way back in the day, there was groups for Disney on news groups. If you can remember news groups, for those of us that are old, if you ever used a news group and was our bulletin boards, way back in the day, I'm really making myself old today. But if you ever used a bulletin board or a news group, there was news groups that were doing the same thing for Disney. So I don't think people have changed. It's just we have access, and it's a lot easier for us to share opinions and share this information, and it's interesting to see how it forces major corporations to show what's going on. I mean, everyone having a camera in their pocket, if anything happens at any theme park, it doesn't matter which one. I mean, I have a friend who works with SeaWorld and does their social media, and one of the things that they have to do is monitor social media and make sure that there's no videos or no, they call it a crisis situation, that happens on Twitter. Like if something happens on an attraction and someone goes on Twitter and post it, or X or whatever it's called now, and post the video, and then a million people and it goes viral, they have to be prepared for those types of things. And I know Disney does too.
And I think the other problem is someplace like Disney, folks are planning the vacation around these announcements. They're booking things a year in advance, so they'll kind of play with dates. And even now, one of the Christmas decorations going up, and why aren't the trees up at the hotels yet? And so by forcing folks to have to plan stuff so far out, that's when people are basing their trips around. They're hoping to see something new this time. It's the same thing as last time. And will the Haunted Mansion be different by the time I get there? Oh, I missed it by a day. So I think the planning takes a lot of the announcement sting for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I totally agree with you there, Michael. And it's, even now, you see some people not only planning their vacations around dates, but also speculating when this attraction or that attraction is going to open, and trying to plan their trips around that, just based off of speculation. Based off of, I saw someone in the forums on this website saying that this was going to open on this date, so I'm going to plan my trip for that date. And those, unless it comes from Disney, or it comes from Universal, or it comes from whatever theme park it is, it's not official, and there's no chance of that. There's no, I mean, there is a chance it could happen, but there's a chance that it could not. So, I mean, there's probably more of a chance that it won't happen.
Awesome.
Well, guys, it has been over an hour here, and we have been rambling on and talking all kinds of things. I enjoyed this discussion very much. I think the social media aspect of this discussion was very interesting, because we dived into a lot of topics. Especially, I think it's more interesting because we are literally doing the thing that we were just talking about and basically criticizing to some extent. Um, so that was really great. But no, but I digress. So I definitely want to thank you all for joining us this week. I want to thank all of you that join us and watch us live on YouTube and join our comments. We are constantly evolving and getting better, and making this show so amazing. And before I go, I'm going to open the floor to anyone who has any final thoughts, comments, or anything that they'd like to say before we wrap this up. Anything you want to plug, or any comments about the show, whatever, please speak now.
No, I'm good myself.
No, just thank you for letting me join in the conversation. And like you said, it's always evolving. And we love to do what we love to do, as talk Disney. And so and that's always fun.
Yes, I love all the different perspectives and thoughts from the frequent goers versus recent past AP holder. So it's fun to hear everyone's perspective.
And now for
And
both
just be
hosts. So great.
exactly. And Lisa, just because you mentioned it, and I'm sure all of our fans will want to know, we will need some sort of info on how we can support your Cincy endeavor. So that way, because you've now mentioned things that I'm sure some of us now need. So
Need.
how do we support you in that endeavor?
Oh, you need the small world. You need It's a Small World. There's actually a Mickey and Minnie Christmas warmer right now. Anyway, so we have I have a website. It's always up, enchantedaroma.com. ENCHANTED aroma.com. That links directly to my Scentsy site, and you can see all the licensed products we have, because we do have now Marvel is going away, but we do have the Disney licensed products. We also have Harry Potter, which there's a winter castle that's available right now. So there's lots of fun licensed products, plus anything else. And there's literally gifts for every age. So I started with Cincy because I love it. Like I love the stuff, and the fact that they have Disney now makes me even happier. So I'm trying to get all of the different attractions to line out, just like every other collector, but this is something that's functional to me. So I appreciate that opportunity to talk about Cincy.
No problem. And before we go, one last chance. Anybody else have anything else to say? All right. Well, that's gonna do it for this episode of Mouse Minds. Now, just some housekeeping stuff here. I am working on getting this available on some sort of all your favorite podcasting platforms. That is a work in progress, but we are still working towards that. I Next week we should have some sort of an intro for the show, which will be fun. If not, I'll just go get a drum or something and bang on that and try to sing, and then we'll call that the intro. No, we're not going to do that. No one wants to sit through that. But we are constantly evolving and getting better, and we'll work on the podcasting and getting that out there to you guys. And we thank you for joining us. Always find us on YouTube, so like and subscribe to this channel here, so you guys can see us when we broadcast every Tuesday at 8:30. You can find us, and unless you guys have nothing else to say, or anything else to say, sorry, we're going to go ahead and end it right now. And I definitely thank you all for joining us. And we will see you again next week on Mouse Minds.
See you next week, everyone.
Night.
Bye.
Night.
All right.